So, what are the different tone qualities of a male singing super high, whether it be whistle or something else? Well, let's hear two different sounds and let's. What? Hold on, wait. That's absurd. That's definitely something I would consider whistle. But there's another sound, and this is what the question was. This is a different tone quality right here. And so this is what was submitted. Now this is the submission that somebody sent me. So I don't think that's whistle. It is marvelously impressive, but I think it's more of a reinforced falsetto. You can hear the. Now this is a whistle. Very distinct. Now the question is, what's the difference between throat bass and chest bass? Mechanically, nothing. The sound is obvious. So all the sound between throat bass and chest bass is very distinct. It's mechanically basically this. Okay, let's take an example of amazing Dilo, and we're going to hear the throat bass here. Oops, no we're not. Oops. There we go. There you go. There's the throat bass. Now let's skip over to the. Now this is chest bass. Now this is chest bass. When you want to do a vocalized chest bass, all you do is adduct the folds to achieve that. The big difference between chest bass and throat bass is going to be how thick the false folds are, okay? How much surface area there is. The false folds are like this, and then there's a muscle called the aryepiglottic muscle. This doesn't have any part in functioning in chest bass, but when you do throat bass, it contracts, which makes the false folds have less surface area, which is conducive to higher pitches. So mechanically very similar, just one little difference. So this is a sound that someone wants to get rid of.
Even if I try.
The whistle afterwards is funny. The big difference here, so the low note, what's happening is that there's not a lot of air, and so we're getting a lot of vocal fry. Additionally, if your folds are super slack like this, and you're not getting the sound you want, you can do a laryngeal tilt, and that helps keep them closed and not flopping around, which is what a fry is.
Whatever.
So you'll go from right, that. Now let's do a little that'll help the larynx. And make sure that you're loose and that your body is really active. None of this, okay? So falsetto is what happens when your folds are separate. Polyphonic is what happens when you have falsetto on top of the false folds, vibrating, and that's how you get two notes. The master of that is Layla Hathaway. She can actually control the intervals, which is completely. Now, sustaining it is very difficult, but you can get up there if you just slide really gently on a falsetto. Every time you get that little grind, that's what's making the polyphonic sound. So you have to isolate that, and that takes a bit, and then you have to sustain it. Damn. And then Layla Hathaway can also control the intervals, and it's just completely insane. So, yeah. So there's a very popular sound that's happening right now. Here's the sound. So what you're hearing there is a drooped, soft palate, and it gives a very specific sound. Ooh. It's very chill. You hear that from SZA. You hear that from a lot of singers. And that's very popular neo soul, pop music now, and a lot of other places. But it is very contrary to older genres and styles. For example, if I were to do jazz, birds flying high, lifted soft palate. So there's a big difference in tone. So if you want the domed one, just kind of like your posture has to be active, but you got to be like almost like you just woke up. And if you want a lifted palate, inhale K will lift it for you. And those are the. So this is a person who's having a little bit of trouble being consistent. Let's take a listen. So this individual can hit notes that are individual, but has a hard time going through the phrase. So how do we fix that? And then here comes the we fix that by getting rid of tension, by addressing tension. That's one way to address the tongue tension, but I can hear this. He's got this going on with his posture, and that's keeping his soft palate down and really kind of interrupting what would be a favorable situation in terms of breath and posture. So how do you work on that? And then here comes the light. I was going to get up and do a stretch, but no. Okay, so this individual is having a pretty easy time hitting higher notes, but has a trouble with sustaining high phrases. Find the yeah, and then here will come dream hard to follow. So there are two things going on here, and you can hear that some of those passages are better than others, but there are two things going on. One, in some of these passages, he has tongue tension. Singing on that can really help that. But there's a posture issue going on here. Yay! And then here come. His soft palate is down as a result of cutting his chin. So if he were to do this, little sways back and forth, that would help his posture. And so this is an individual who is working on a growl. Rosie, I have some. So the temptation when working on a growl is to tighten up and try to get aggressive. But the reality is that you actually need to do quite the opposite. You need to be loose, open, and go to practice it at first. Go from the bottom.
And things that go down there. If I want to show my body, I'm going to show it.
Do that a couple times. And so what's happening there is I'm contracting the false folds, making them come together. Another good way to do that. So if you do that, the lowering, and do that while you're going up. Yeah.
And things.
So this individual is trying to work on their growl. Let's hear it.
Rosie, I have something to say.
So that's. You want to be able to control your tension. You'd imagine that growls are like really tight and energetic, and they're energetic, but they're loose in every other capacity other than what's called your area pyloric
And things that go
sphincters.
down there. If I want to show my body, I'm going to show
Your false folds come together if you hold your breath. You can feel that closing right there in your throat. You want to kind of almost try to keep them closed, but use very little air and do it on the low end. And that's how you get a growl. Lie to me.